Hello, Miss Lamb. We've been expecting you.
Okay. Okay, let's actually start.
Alright, now move. Dean, probably should be out of the camera.
Scoot over here.
So you can see your legs, I think.
Yeah, okay.
My best.
Alright, so what do you think some of the main themes in this book were?
I think one of the main themes was that it's important to speak up for yourself and for like people around you, even though like there might be a cost, like yourself.
Individuality.
I think it's kind of like seeking independence and seeking out to find your own individuality. Because like for so long, it was that the woman's role was to be the housewife and the one that took care of the kids. And now these women are like trying to go out and make a difference in the world.
I think it's more over liberty than individuality, because I usually associate individuality with rough American individuality. Oh, whoops, I just broke your cup. I'm so sorry.
It's okay, we have a lot.
But, I mean, liberty is more over just being able to say what you want and do what you want, whereas rough American individuality is, you know, like, oh, I made a successful company from the start of being a paper salesman. That's what I see the differences.
Yeah, that's like working for the greater good, not just for your own personal gain. That's like the sisters wanted it better for like Maria, Teresa.
Working for not only yourself but the people around you, your children and your children's children and their children after that. Just making life better for everyone, even if it costs you your life or other things dear to you, your family's lives. All for the greater good.
It's kind of weird. Everybody's talking over.
No one can see you when you're on that
Yeah,
side.
but it can't see you.
It couldn't see me when I was on that side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now she knows that Dean is over there because he moved on camera.
Yeah, that's true.
He's probably gonna cut that out.
No, let's keep it.
Yeah.
Keep going.
It's good.
She knows Dean was here because of the intro.
It's fine.
Okay, guys, let's go back to what Katie said and talk about gender roles in the book.
Do you want to elaborate
No,
more? Or?
No, just generally, like, gender roles, because there's, like, what she said, there's a lot of female oppression, and
At
then...
the beginning of the book, Dee Dee was always like, no, we shouldn't do this. It's kind of a man's thing. Like, let's not play volleyball. It's kind of a man's sport.
And how's that compared to at the end of the book?
Well, and then Minerva was like, I'm going to do it anyway. Okay, I don't care.
Minerva,
And they're like, I'm going to go play volleyball with my guy, except then they went off and, yeah.
Didn't play volleyball?
Yeah.
Volleyball. But then also from, like, the revolutionary standpoint, you can see, like, Minerva was the main center, and I think that, like, because, you know, like, the Minerva, like, these people were real people, it's just, it's a fictionalized version of it. Like, Minerva is the one that everyone thinks of when they think about it, and so they really, like, the author tried to make her seem more human in the books so that you could relate to her.
Well, and also I know that like Dee in the book it said that people always wondered why she was the one that was saved and it wasn't the one that was killed. And she was like, because I joined too late, because she was always resistant to it. Then once she started seeing like what was happening and how things could change, she wanted to go and do it. But then before she could, it was too late to be part of it.
I think it also has a lot to do with like self-doubt and not being sure what you believe in.
Yeah, because like she wanted to like deep down she wanted to break away from that specific female gender role like stereotype, but like that was kind of a new idea and she was like afraid of what could happen if she did.
It's like the difference between tradition and change, because she didn't want to leave her husband. She didn't want her husband to leave her, even though he wasn't the best husband for her. In a sense that he got like over-exaggerated things all the time. But if she would have gone out and tried to change things, then her whole life would be different from what everybody's always said it's supposed to be.
And you just said tradition or change and butterfly, and butterfly's in the title, and butterflies change.
Oh, metamorphosis.
Oh, I get that.
Stop referencing.
Although it was called in the title the Butterflies because their code names were...
Yeah, but why is the
But
revolutionary?
why was their code name Butterflies?
Because revolutions change.
That could have been an unintentional symbolic meaning.
Or it could have been
Or it could have been.
I think it probably is intentional.
Yeah, they're like, hey, people are going to be writing books about
Maybe
this.
the way the book portrays it.
Obviously
Obviously at the time they're like, we need to make sure we're symbolic here,
Yes.
guys.
Let's think of a really good code name.
Or at least
Yeah.
I think moreover the butterfly thing was written in by the author versus like the revolutionaries being like, you know what we should be? Butterflies! They're revolutionary!
Well, I mean, definitely, but the
Like-
author had to make it literary content.
I think the author really did a good job though of like making the butterfly that was just their code name into something that was more symbolic of change.
And I
Thanks for
also
talking to camera.
There you go.
Nobody's talking.
I also liked how you could read from each of the daughters' perspective, because then you got the sense of like how each of them kind of felt about it, because not everybody's opinion was the same.
That confused me though, because
Yeah.
I thought someone was going there and then getting a diary and then it blended all together, all the characters.
If you didn't keep in mind whose chapter it was, it could get very confusing as to what was happening, who was doing what, and where and when.
I think it changed so often that you would, like, as I said, get, like, confused about which perspective. So I'd be thinking Dee Dee's talking, but it would be, like, from the perspective of a little girl, which is Maria Teresa. So I have to, like, go back and make sure that I'm reading the chapter, like, through the right eyes.
Well, I think it was very effective to
Yeah.
me at least, just because you do get like all the different perspectives, and it like shows what's going on around in the world just from different people's views. Like
Yeah.
you got like from a little kid, and you also got from like Minerva, who's like all about revolution. Then you get Dee Dee, who's just kind of like I don't want to step up, but I know it's right.
Yeah, it adds another layer, kind of confusingness if you aren't careful, but it also adds another level of depth and, just like Emily said, just gives the perspective of every character, which really helps you to understand better what's going on and why things are happening.
Yeah, and it could also like back up, like in most like revolutionary times, like there were different like groups of people who had different views and stuff, and the changing of different points of view can help possibly like expand on that more.
And then also, like, the diary gave you more of a personal connection. And if you compare that to, like, Water for Chocolate, where it was, we were just talking about how it's more like you had to infer what the people were thinking and stuff. In the Time of Butterfly, it was more like you already knew what they were thinking.
Give that to Niki.
Oh, sorry.
My dad's here, just for the record.
Already?
Well, it's 4:21.
He's waiting, so
Oh, how long have we been talking?
Not very long.
Not really.
10 minutes.
Oh, I thought that's
2 minutes is pretty good.
5.
Really?
Okay, keep going.
Yeah, 5.
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
just carry on then.
Continue.
I also
Sorry.
thought, like, as I was reading the book, I kind of thought, like, well, would I be able to do this? Because it's so easy to think, like, oh, yeah, well, they need to change, and I can see, sorry. They need to change, and, like, I would want to be the person to step up and do that. But honestly, I don't know if I would be that person.
It would be very difficult.
Yeah.
Take a lot of selflessness and bravery. It's a very honorable thing to do.
But at the same time, it's kind of a selfish act, too, because you're trying to change it because you don't want to live in how you're living right now. So, I mean, you can say it's selfless, but it's kind of selfish, too. Not in a bad way, though.
Yeah, because
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
from our perspective, we know everything about it, and we know the end of the book, and we know that, yes, they need to change, but everyone else in the community probably didn't know all that stuff, and didn't have, like, perspective, because it was happening to them. So it is kind of a selfish act, because everyone else in the community was okay with what their lives were, and they didn't know all the facts. So to them, it was, like, a selfish act, because they didn't understand what was going on.
I don't think that they were okay with it, but I think it was more of like they were trying to tell themselves it was okay because
they're trying to live.
Yeah, they're trying to live and they're too scared to speak up, so they're just trying to trick themselves into thinking it's okay. But then you get the few people who are like, it's not okay, so I want to do something about it, which is it's not. I wouldn't call it selfish though, because they want a better life for themselves, but also for other people around them. If they wanted a better life for just themselves, they could just move out of the country.
Well, I mean,
Well, they're kind
Well,
of
you can't really move.
Can't really move, they'll
Yeah.
kind of kill you.
You
The
can like
revolution.
work.
they're trying to change
If
the
they're gonna-
country to something that they think is right, which I mean, they're considered radicals until they succeed, and then they're considered heroes.
well, it's always justified through the eyes of the revolutionary, and to the outsider or someone who's not like a fan of the revolutionaries, then it's always going to be seen as like a radical or idealistic movement, kind of like even our own founding fathers, they were radicals or idealistics, but they succeeded, and nowadays we think it's just perfectly normal and fine. And through the eyes of the revolutionary, it's going to be justified through moral means, like, oh, they're controlling these people's lives and making them worship a person that they shouldn't really worship, because after all, he's only president, and they're just going to justify it morally, and then that's all they really need. It's not really like, oh, I'm going to do this for myself. It's more over like, morally, I see this as wrong, so I'm going to try and fix this.
What did you guys think about them having to put the picture of Trujillo
In
in
their
their
house.
house next to the picture of like God or Jesus or whatever it was?
It was kind of like they were trying to elevate his status to as high as it could be, next to the people's own religious figures, so that they would see him as a higher power who they could not stand up against and whose will was absolute, rather than someone who they could stand up to and say, no, this is what everyone wants. And that kind of indoctrination into the belief that the El Jefe is the ultimate power kind of contributed to the people's reluctance for revolution.
And they grow up trusting him because he's always been a part of their lives, being part of, like, growing up in their home.
It's
And
like
they-
brainwashing the
Well,
kids.
it's like, yeah, we trust the government because we've
Dewey-
grown up with
Dewey
it all our
Gatlin.
lives.
I think it was just kind of scary how ingrained it was. Like, was it Maria Teresa or someone else who put like his picture under their pillow to ward off bad dreams?
Yeah,
I think
she
it's
read
like
it in her diary.
scary how like ingrained it was, and then that he was so godlike and that he was so amazing that even his picture could like have amazing feats.
And even after they found out he was killing people, she still wrote in her diary, it's like a father who maybe does things you don't agree with, but you still love him and you still respect him and his authority. And it's just kind of, the people are so used to recognizing him. And
Well, I think Churlihu, or I can't pronounce his
Trujillo.
name right now.
Trujillo.
I think he used more of a passive re-education, like when compared to Stalin, who like took people and put them in re-education camps, whereas this guy just like
Hey,
passively
Tess?
like
Yeah,
Can I borrow you for 1 second?
sure.
he just passively like
Okay.
made them hang up pictures in their homes and do all this other stuff to basically just slowly and subtly get them to love him and just find him as just this comforting figure.
To me, it's just wrong. Like, I think it's so wrong that you have to do that. Like, if you want to do that, perfectly fine, okay with you, but I just think it just shows the dictatorship that he had and the power that he had over the people, because even though these people were trying to change something and change him, because he was a terrible man that killed many, many people, you still have to have this picture hanging up in your kitchen of him next to Jesus, God.
Which, yeah.
Which was also required.
I was just gonna say, I think it's sad though that he's doing this and that. I forgot what I was gonna say, so Niki, go ahead.
But to me, it didn't seem like there were a lot of people that were like opposed to having him in their kitchen. Like, she talked about like one specific family who didn't do it, or like one specific group that didn't have it in their kitchen, and they got like arrested or something. But she didn't talk about how no one wanted to have him in their kitchen. So I don't think it was like that it was, yes, that he had all that power, but it's that everyone bought into that power so much that they willingly accepted having his picture above their dining room table.
Well,
Or
it
they
may
were
not have
just
been.
too scared.
It may not have been like buying into it because it's not really something that you can go around saying I don't agree with this, because if you did, it's basically a life or death situation. Not the majority of people are not going to stick their neck out that far to try and change something that they don't feel that as an individual they could have any effect on.
Well, I mean, people trust the system until the system personally, like, does something to make them lose trust in it.
Because you can hear stories but not believe it. Sorry. You
I'm sorry, I didn't remember what I was gonna say. I was gonna say that it's sad though that families like end up not trusting each other, though, which is really sad. Like, you can't even trust like your own sister or your own mother or father, like to turn you into the place where you could be killed.
And like, we as a country advocate being able to say what you want to say, as long as it's not like completely terrible. but they couldn't even say anything bad.
Completely terrible in the eyes of the government.
Yeah, as long
Well,
as, like,
you know what I mean.
threatening
pretty
government
sure-
officials with other human life.
I'm pretty sure that they wouldn't be very happy with some of the stuff I might spurt out about the government.
But I mean,
So
yeah,
if Gatlin
what I'm saying.
disappears, we don't know
You know what happened.
I think we're fine.
I think
This
we're all right.
concludes our one and hopefully only book group session.
Woo! Happy New
Did we
Year.
have
We
to
love
do
Miss
2
Lamb.